Hey there guys, so I want to thank you as always for checking out today's video, and I do again really appreciate you guys and your support and your comments, everything that you have shared with me. I do really appreciate it, and again I try to get back to you guys as much as possible and really read you guys' comments, and again I do appreciate it. So as always, I do have something new, of course, I want to share as I usually do each and every week. So, in this video, what I want to discuss in particular is I feel like, again, I always am thinking of topics to discuss each and every week and really dive into. And I think this topic is pretty relevant, of course, to the month that is coming up. And so, what I wanted to go over today is really discuss what pride means to me and why pride is extremely relevant and extremely important in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of people really have a specific notion on what they think pride is. And pride is not specifically one thing. I think it's multiple different aspects. And I think there's an importance to it that we have to recognize because it's something that has always resonated with me the most. I had always been somebody who loved pride, and there's a reasoning behind that. And I know a lot of people don't see pride as something that is significant, something that is, it's just something that's there, but there's a lot of history that comes with it. And especially if you're somebody who lives in an area like I live, it takes on so much more weight. Where if you're somebody who lives in an area where it is way more accepted, it doesn't take on that much weight. So I think it's important to put yourself in somebody else's shoes who really understands what the significance is behind pride itself. So I've talked about pride, I believe, in one other video, but I do want to dive into why it is really relevant to me in a lot of ways, and why I think it's still just as important today as it's been in the past. I think it's even more relevant, honestly, today with everything that has been going on, everything that I see, when it comes to social media and just everything that's shared, the comments that I see. I think it's even more relevant. And a lot of people don't understand the significance behind it. Well, the significance behind it, of course, is the fact of being visibly open to others. That's why, again, I understand why certain people don't want to be out and open. I get that. But my whole life, I've made it a focus to be honest. I've made it a focus to put myself out there. And one thing I hated, I really looked down upon myself, especially over these past few years, is that I was trying to put on a mask and a barrier of myself, and becoming this lie, I think really bothered me. And so really what it means when it comes to pride is being open and honest about yourself. The more that people can see that, the more that people are able to see that you're visibly who you are, the more it brings a sense of peace and calm. That's why, like I've always mentioned before, when we look at music, when we look at entertainment, when we look at those basically those stories and those concepts of being visible and open, it allows us to feel more calm about ourselves whenever we see that. And so when you are able to be out and open, and again, what I do want to say too when it comes to that is if you're not comfortable, of course, I understand that aspect. But I've always been like, I'm willing to put myself through hell to just be open. I'm willing to be that person, you know. And I know that not a lot of people are willing to do that because it's not easy. It's not been easy for me. It's been a pain in the ass, to say the least, to be honest and open about myself. Like I said, dealing with everything. It's not easy because you're always worried about what everybody else is thinking of you, especially if you live in a smaller town and you're always, you know, that people have something to say about you. You know that everybody's just going to have something to say. They're going to be talking about you. They're going to be saying something, you know, and that was always one thing that I really worried about all the time. I worried about it all the time. And even sometimes I still do. But then I tell myself, you get to a point to where is it really worth it? Is it really worth it to try to be like put on this perfect image for others? Is it really worth it? I mean, you know, or is it worth it to be honest? Is it worth it to be honest and just be yourself? You are not harming anybody. You are not hurting anybody. You are not doing anything. I mean, you're just being a human who is liking other human beings who of course are adults. You're an adult too. You know, it's but again, we still live in a time where there's just this whole concept where we have a lot of these different systems that want to control every aspect. And so, what you're going to hear a lot, you're going to hear a lot of negative stuff as it comes up in this next month on how people feel about anybody that's gay, anybody who's trans. You're going to hear that. It's going to happen. I've had to deal with it my whole life when I've had so many different voices, so many different things said to me, so many different, even when I was in the closet and having a lot of negative things said about gay people, and then I automatically had that feeling like, okay, are they talking to me even though I wasn't out at the time? You know, you're going to have to deal with a lot of those negative things. And again, I think I think it's important. I think that so many people, and again, I think about history a lot. So many people who, you know, you think about like back in the 50s and the 60s, whenever pride really was birthed, in other words, when you think about that, they had to go through a lot. I mean, they went through way more than any of us in this time have ever went through. I mean, it is way, of course, it is way more open and visible now, you know, when it comes to being LGBTQ. But when you think about how it was and you put yourself in the shoes of somebody back then, I mean, you would be close to death if somebody was to find you, or you know, you would basically be killed. In other words, you would be harmed in some way. And that's not to say that people aren't harmed today. There are a lot of people harmed, especially a lot of people harmed, you know, with words and just vocally, and, you know, having mental trauma. Of course, that is very common. I think that's something that I've had to deal with a lot. It's just the mental trauma, the internalized homophobia that you have of yourself. You have to deal with that. You have to deal with that because the world doesn't like you. It just doesn't like you. So, but I think, like I've mentioned before, I think gay people have a thicker skin. I think you naturally have a thicker skin because you've had to go through that. You've had to go through you're constantly in this fight or flight mindset. You know, you especially, like I said, again, if you're in an area, like if you're in a small town, you're constantly in that mindset, or you don't know how people are going to perceive you, you know, depending on, you know, if you're more feminine, of course, it is very, you don't know. And even then, you still have that thought in the back of your mind, like, how are people going to perceive me? How are they going to view me? And again, going back to the concept of pride, pride in itself is really about being visible and showing those others who are in the closet and who are struggling to know that they do have a voice, that they do have somebody there. Life is not meant to be hidden in the shadows. We are not meant to hide in the shadows our entire life. And again, I know I'm different when it comes to it. I know a lot of people struggle with being open. A lot of people struggle with, you know, coming out to family or coming out, because it is really scary. It's scary. It's scary for me. I remember the time when I was younger, and that was a different time then. I mean, in 2008, of course, I mean, gradually over the years it's become more accepting, but 2008 was a hard time to come out. And that's when I had first come out, was in 2008. And let me tell you, that was hard, especially when you're younger. It's way harder when you're younger. I think it does get easier when you're older, but then it's still, you still have to deal with people that just will not accept you. And then I had, like, whenever I came out again recently, I had people out of the woodwork who barely know me, who had something to say, you know, who had something to say to me, to tell me what I'm doing is wrong, when nobody looks at anything else that they're doing in their life, but then they want to tell somebody who they barely know that you're doing the wrong thing. And that just, again, you have to just live. You have to live. Everybody has something that they're going to say. I spent years reading the Bible. I spent years, like the past 5 years, trying to change, trying to be the perfect person. And the more, like I said, the more that I was reading the Bible, I mean, I was studying, I was reading every afternoon. Every time I would get done with work, I was reading it, I was going through it. And I honestly don't know how many other Christians have done the same, but I sat down and I read it. And I was going through it, I was reading it, I was reading it, I was reading it. And the more that I continued to read, the more that some things hit me the wrong way, or some things did not make sense. You know, there was just, even just moral issues I was having, which is really odd to say with the Bible, but I was having moral issues when I was reading it. Like, I was thinking that some things didn't seem right. But, and then I come to a point in a realization where a lot of the things that are done when it comes to making gay people the villain is, it's because they want to have a boogeyman. The church in itself wants to have a boogeyman. They want to have a specific group of people that are the boogeyman, and that's what I believe it is. That's what I, because they don't, we look over so many other things that are considered sin, but then we hone in on one thing. And that's what I think it is. I think it's creating a villain, creating a boogeyman, so that there's a group of people that can be attacked. And that's what I've come to the conclusion of what it is. And again, that's the reality of the world we live in. But things are improving. All we can do is try to be the best person we can be, try to be there for others, be loving to others. And that's the way that I see it. I think life is meant to be, you are not meant to have to lie about who you are. You're not meant to have to hide yourself. That is not what life is meant. You're not meant to walk on eggshells around people just to try to fit in. That's not what life's meant to be. And so, again, what pride means specifically to me, again, it means being honest. I think that's truly what it means. It means having the younger generation who knows that they have somebody who completely understands where they're coming from, and they see them, and they have somebody who gets it. They have somebody that they know is in their corner. And that's the way I see it. I think it's really about being honest and open. But feel free to share what you guys think about what pride means to you. Again, I know not everybody is as big on it as I am. I'm very passionate about it because I think it has a lot of meaning. I think it has more meaning, like I said, especially for me. When you come from an area I come from, it has so much more significance. It has a lot of power behind it. And that's why I'm willing to put myself in a position to where say, okay, this is me. I mean, you're gonna harm me, I guess go ahead, you know. But I don't think it's worth it to hide. I don't. I'm a person that likes to be honest, and I don't think it's worth it to just put on a face for everybody else. But again, guys, I really appreciate your time and checking this video out. I know you could probably watch a ton of other things, but I do really appreciate it. I will be traveling again, like I've mentioned, in the next few days. I'll be gone. I'll actually be going to Los Angeles, and then I'll be back the following week. My video uploads may be a little bit sporadic. Um, However, I do plan on doing some of my streams that I normally do as far as my fitness streams. But thank you guys once again for your time. I really hope that this gave you a little bit of thought, especially if you're somebody who's going through a lot of issues, really accepting yourself. Again, do it at your own pace. If you're somebody who's struggling to come out, do it at your own pace. Like I said, it's been a lifelong thing for me. I've had to go through so much mentally. I think a lot of my anxiety and depression has come a lot from that. But no matter what, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. And I think it, again, if it helps out somebody else, I could care less about how I feel, you know. I could care less. I would rather help somebody else than just, you know, and go through all that and just to have somebody know, you know, I understand, you know. And that's what it means to me. But again, guys, thank you for your time, and I'll see you guys in the next one.